So this sidewind jack we have here, there's absolutely nothing wrong with it except for you have to manually crank it, and we're not going to do that. We're going to install an electric jack. If you're like me and you've reached that point in your life where you just say no to manual trailer jacks, well, you're in luck today. From electric to hydraulic, we're going to look at some jacks that's going to up your lifting game. You may already have an electric jack on your unit like I do on this trailer here. I'm going to replace it because this one is intermittent, it's worn, it's the original jack to the trailer, and it's just time for the replacement. Sometimes the switch gets stuck and it just goes by itself, and sometimes you got to give it a good cussing just to make it go up and down. So we're going to replace that. But also, if you're wanting to add a jack to your existing trailer, maybe you still have the manual, we're going to cover some of that today. It's pretty easy to do today. Most DIYers can do this with minimal tools. You want to support your tongue with some jack stands, something static, to make sure that you're safe. You're going to need possibly some wire cutters, some crimpers, some connectors, a combination wrench or ratchet to get the bolts off. Now, if this jack were welded on, you're going to have to do a little extra to that. Usually in the RV industry, we don't see them welded on, but in the the utility trailer world and occasionally in the cargo trailer world, they do weld the jack on just for ease in manufacturing, so you would have to cut that out. But in most cases, they're going to be bolted on. So the first thing we're going to do after we support the trailer is remove the foot pin in the foot so we can get it out. We're going to grab our handy dandy ratchet. Now, if your coupler is not threaded, you may have a nut on the underside. So if you're spinning, you may have to grab you a backup wrench. Many of these will also have some Loctite on them. And every once in a while, if you're lucky, one's cross-threaded. You don't have to deal with that. Now I just need to remove the wire. So it could be wired into a junction box. This one is wired straight into the inside of the trailer to the battery connection. So you just need to trace that back and decide where you're going to make the new connection. Sometimes they'll be fused, sometimes they won't, but just disconnect the wire, make sure there's no power. I have removed the fuse out of this one, so there is no chance of short circuiting. And that's it as far as removal. It's very simple in most cases. And what we're going to reinstall with is the E-Trailer electric tongue jack. This jack is rated for 5,000 pounds. It is the hardwire version. I like this one. It does come with a ground. Many of them will just ground through the flange that bolts to the coupler. And a lot of times that will work, but if you're having trouble with your jack, you could have some corrosion in there. And if you look at the top of this jack here, there is powder coat under here, so it's grounding through the three bolts or the three screws that are on there. And a lot of times that does work, but occasionally you can have some corrosion there. So if your jack doesn't work, you may have to do something there. I like this one with a hard chassis ground that you can ground back to the frame, to the battery, wherever that connection is, just to help you out. It's gonna have a light, it's got your up and down switch, has a handy dandy cover. I recommend using the covers. I was bad about not using the cover on the other one. This just saves the life of the plastics that are on there. And that's where the sponsor of today's video comes in, E-Trailer. You're gonna be able to find these jacks. We will leave a link in the description to the jacks that we use in this video and some others that may be a better fit for your unit. So let's pull the pin off the bottom of this and let's get it installed and get it running. And as I said, if you don't have bolts, if you do have one that's cross-threaded, you're gonna have to drill out. It does come with some mounting hardware, so that is provided in there just to make it a simpler install. So at this point, it's really just running the wiring. So what I'd recommend doing is putting some loom over this just to help protect the coating again on the wire. I'm gonna replace it with a new piece of wiring loom. And the way I like to tape my loom on any wire, I'll pre-tape the wires. And this is not to keep any moisture out. It's not to keep really anything out. It's simply just to keep the loom in place. So you leave a little tag, put your loom split over that, and then go back and tape over the loom. Like I said, it's not really to seal the loom, it's just to hold it up and to keep it from falling off prematurely. And then just put the rest of your wire in it. And and feed it back to where your connection is going to be. I recommend putting a couple zip ties. It comes with some on there that you could just leave if you decide not to use the loom. And once you crimp your eyelet on that is provided with the jack for your chassis ground, you may already have a point on here that you can tie into that there's a screw or a bolt, or you may have to add something. Regardless, if you're using an existing fastener or a new one, I recommend removing some of the coating, whether that's paint, wax coating, or powder coat, to put that on there just to make sure you get a good ground. So that's what I'm gonna do. You don't have to use a belt sander. You can just sand it by hand, a scraper or something like that, but just for ease. So wiring's done, just gotta put the foot on. It is an adjustable 4-pin position, so that gives you the drop leg option, but you don't have to bring the jack as far down. That is pretty handy dandy. It's got a light so you can see what you're doing at night. Like I said, this one is rated for 5,000. A lot of the electric jacks are rated for 2,000, 2,500. I like to go with the 5,000 when available at least. So if you were to have, so for instance, this trailer, the battery is deader than a doornail on it this morning, so that's why I'm using my handy dandy jump box to power the jack. But if you were in a situation where you left your lights on and your battery is dead, but you need to get hooked up, once you plug into your truck, it's gonna give you some charge, but worst case scenario, it does come with a manual crank that you can put on there and you can crank it down. So I have seen people, depending on where your tanks are, you may have to remove your cover so you don't hit. There's really nothing you can do about that. That's not the jack's fault. That's just the construction of this. I have seen some people modify this and use a drill. Not saying whether or not to do that. Do your own research on that. But you do have a manual crank down option if you do lose power. So this one here is wrapped up. I'm gonna snip a couple zip ties, put the rest of the loom on, and pull it out, and let's look at something different. We have this old utility trailer here that's fixing to take a long trip, so I am making a few upgrades, getting it ready to go out of town with it. So this sidewind jack we have here, there's absolutely nothing wrong with it, except for you have to manually crank it, and we're not gonna do that. We're gonna install an electric jack, but this trailer does not have a battery. It has no power on it, and I'm gonna show you how you can get around that, especially for the DIY upgrade. This is gonna be very nice for y'all. So we're gonna support the trailer. We're going to remove the fasteners for this jack, get it out of here, and let's get the new one on. Now, if the manual jack you remove is in good shape, don't discard that. Give it to one of your younger friends that don't know no better, that likes to work harder, not smarter, or give it to your brother-in-law and sit back and watch as he's manually cranking that dude, and you're just going all the way to the top. Keep it for that. Just straightforward, remove the foot. It does come with mounting hardware. This is not a tapped coupler, so you will have to use some bolts. If your bolts are in good shape, you're going to use those fine. If not, use the provided bolts and lock nuts. Just remember to stick your tongue out. That's so easy, a keyboard engineer could install this thing. And here's what makes this one so handy. It may be better than sliced light bread, I don't know. It's a 7-way plug. So literally, to install this on your existing unit, no hard wiring, no additional battery, none of that stuff. You literally just plug it into your tow vehicle. As long as your hot wire's working, you don't have to manual crank no more. You got electric jack. Now I know some will say, well, you don't need an electric jack on a small trailer like that. Well, if your 85-year-old grandpa is still like some of these around here that I know that still gets it every day, they may need a jack to help them get their trailer on or off, so this would be a good option for them. Or maybe you just don't have those store-bought muscles and you just need a little extra help, or maybe you're like me, you just want a little bit easier. This is a great option for you. It has a very large drop leg, so you don't have to crank it down so far. And that's a wrap on this jack. We went in just a short amount of time to install this, to go from a manual to electric, where this also is super handy. Maybe you have a cargo trailer, maybe you do weekend flea markets. Y'all know what a flea market is? Maybe do stuff like that, concessions or something, where you do want something electric. You don't necessarily want to tie it in, or you don't have the capability to tie it in. You can utilize this. Just plug it into your tow vehicle, raise it up and down, has the light on the front, and it still has the manual option in case you do blow a hot wire on your truck, or for some reason you need to dolly it up and down and you don't have that option. You can do a manual crank on that as well. It's just a great option. Unplug that, plug back in, get your lights, get your brakes, get all your things ready to go, and you're ready to hit the road. So now let's show the third option. Last but not least is a hydraulic setup. So it uses electricity, but it's electric over hydraulic. So this is going to be for a heavier application. We'll pop the cover off of it so you can see. So it has hydraulic motor, has hydraulic reservoir. And this is really going to be like if you have a really heavy, bumper pull equipment trailer, maybe a larger race or a stacker trailer, this would come into play, or a heavy bumper pull travel trailer. It's, like I said, rated for 8K. This is going to be faster than electric jack, so if you're looking for speed, this may be an option for you as well. Now, one thing I will tell you, the way we normally install these is we put our own bracket on. Normally, we're wanting to locate this in a custom setup. It may or may not work with your current setup. You may have to modify that some because it is a much bigger jack. You can see the flange that's on it and where the hydraulic hose comes down. You may have to make a modification on your current coupler if you're not putting it into a custom application. The remote on it's nice up and down switch, and it also has a lockout. So you can lock this where somebody just can't come up, dolly your trailer down on their ball, so that is handy. When you look at this online, if you'll scroll down to the bottom of the page, it does have some great color installation instructions with it. That's going to tell you the install, the functionality, the maintenance, all that. It also will cover what type of hydraulic fluid you need to put in it. It is not going to come pre-filled with hydraulic fluid because it would leak out. This is your fill cap, but it's also a breather, and it has a dipstick tube. Most applications for this are going to run like a Dextron ATF automatic transmission fluid. For some cold weather environments, it will give you some recommendations on there. If you're from the north where it gets much colder than it does here in the south, you may need to run a different weight fluid on there. But just check the instructions out before you order to make sure this will be a good fit. But this would be, we install a lot of these on bumper pulls on our heavier units. It's just a nice setup, and it is rated for 8K. It lifts fast, and I just really like it. You can put it in a custom application, or it will fit some existing applications. Be sure to check out the 8K electric over hydraulic. You will need a full-size battery for this, so you're not going to be able to just hook this in to your 7-way plug or small wire. This is going to need to be hooked into like a deep cycle battery. You will need some battery cable. In those instructions, it will tell you what size gauge you need for the length of run that you're running those wires. So it will tell you from A to Z everything you're going to need to make this install. So make sure to go over those before you purchase this to make sure it's a good fit for you. Be sure to check this jack out, the other jacks that we've shown in this video at eTrailer.com, the sponsor of today's video. It's just going to up your lifting game. Just makes life a little easier for you. There's a lot of options out there, and these eTrailer jacks, I'm pretty pumped about them. They're going to help some people out. They're definitely going to help me out. So thanks for watching. After you dolly this thing down, hook it up to your truck, check the lug nuts, and we'll see you down the road.